So you had a topic that you wanted to cover.
Well,
and let's kind of get into it.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, as we were talking before hitting the big red record button tonight about the fact that we both have karaoke gigs coming up.
Yep.
And I don't know how many of our listeners do live karaoke, but it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing, but it has some challenges to it that are, I'm not even sure how unique to karaoke those challenges are, but they sort of revolve around crowd control. They revolve around people coming up and having a different picture of what's supposed to happen than what's supposed to happen.
Yep.
You had some sort of incident, might be too strong a word, but something that we were saving to talk about after pushing the button.
Yeah, so when you're talking about live band karaoke, there are a couple of types of folks. You've got your ringers. Those are the people that do this kind of as their thing or do it as pros and are just kind of goofing off. And those are fun because you know that you're going to have a solid person to rely on.
Yeah.
Last night, in that case, my wife showed up and came up and did a couple of tunes. And she was like, it was kind of fun to not be working, but still get to do some stuff and not be on the hook for everything. So that was fun. And then you've got people who are kind of timid, and this is them kind of coming out of their shell. And it's this very like cathartic thing. And that's really fun.
Yep.
And then you've got the people who are super confident, but don't have any sort of like anything to back up the bravado that they bring. And that's its own unique thing.
Yes.
The other super memorable moment was a guy who apparently had done like Sinatra with them before, but asked to do Your Song by Elton John, which is a song that I play all the time. It's one of my favorites. And he had that song in his heart, and he had the metronome in his heart, and that metronome was broken. And there was nothing we could do to get him to do the song along with what we were doing. There were multiple times where we tried to like jump a bar, half a bar to try to like get him on. And the second we did that, he was like a half a bar ahead of us. It never lined up. And it was, by the end, it was absolute comedy for us. Yeah. And he was none the wiser. He was.
No, I hope you don't mind. I hope you don't mind.
He did not mind.
No, for sure. Yeah. Well, so then, but then to get back to where you were pointing me.
We were all over the place.
There is this. It is a high public contact phenomenon. Hosting.
Yes, very public.
Hosting music trivia. It's your
front facing.
Yeah, front facing and very much in contact with a drunken and sometimes entitled community. So I actually wrote a list of rules, and it's just 3 rules. Would you like me to read you my rules?
I would love to hear those rules.
There are 3. The first one is pick songs from the list.
That's a good.
All right, and here's the copy under that rule. There are lots and lots of really great songs in the songbook, and it's literally all the songs I know well enough to play for you. I invite requests, but I usually can't do them the same night because I have to go learn them. Go to, and there's a link to the part of the app to go submit requests. So that's rule 1, pick songs from the list. Rule 2, don't pressure others to sing.
Yep.
Consensual karaoke only. Even if your friend's a really good singer and they totally should, even if it's your kid and it would be so cute, this show only works when people choose freely to participate and sign up on their own because they want to. Pressuring others, including your children, to perform is extremely uncool, so please don't do it. I can't tell you the number of times I've had women, and it is always women, come up and have like this whole thing about my kid needs to sing and the kid's like mortified and doesn't want to and isn't interested and like would rather die, and the mom's like, oh, come on, honey. It's a whole thing. All it has ever done is put a crater in the energy of the night.
Yeah.
That kid has never turned out a great performance, not once. And it's happened a bunch of times. So I wrote a thing there about how don't pressure your kids. Frankly, listen, that's what my mother did to me, and now I'm a performing monkey and I can't be anything else. So you want better for your children, frankly. That's how that is.
Yeah.
And then 3, last one. Respect the show and the flow. As a participant, you have everything to do with the night being fun and successful for everyone. When you're on the list to sing, stay alert for me to call your name. When you're the singer, put on an awesome performance. At all other times, be a great audience member. In other words, support the performers and help the show flow smoothly. Don't grandstand, steal attention from the person performing, or stall out the show.
Okay.
So those are the 3 rules that I wrote. I don't know that anyone has ever read them.
You're kind of leaning into a category of person, though. We were talking about some of the other folks. What would you consider this particular category of person in a karaoke scenario?
Entitled drunk people?
Fair.
Is there a right answer you're going for?
Yeah, no, I think entitled drunk person really sums it up.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with anything else other than their attitudes and kind of how things are going. So, oddly enough, fresh off of this gig that we did last night, there was a person who came up and wanted us to do It Takes Two by DJ Rob Bass, which is a great song, but it wasn't on the list. And nobody knew it. And so we sat there for a minute and tried to figure it out. As I was trying to kind of wrap my head around it, I started playing Bust a Move by Young MC. And I literally in the middle of going through riffs, wait a minute, that's Bust a Move. I have to go back to it.
That's not it, yeah.
Yeah, no. And so, we're trying to figure it out. And he's talking smack about how it sounds.
Yeah.
On the mic, on stage with the guys who are doing a nice thing by trying to make this work for him.
Yeah.
And then he proceeded to tank whatever performance he was trying to do.
Yeah.
And was just overall just unpleasant to be around.
Yeah.
So
yeah. By the time he got there, he'd already soured the room. They hated him.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah.
And we definitely were not stoked on it either.
No.
The last thing you want to do is piss off the band that's backing you up. There's a lot of footage of musicians just deciding, maybe I don't feel like playing this right for you. We didn't necessarily tank it, but he was not garnering any goodwill for anybody.
No.
Because in those moments, those are people who are trying to have fun at the expense of other people. And that to me is the overarching principle when it comes to live performance. And that applies to audience members, that applies to the people on stage. You are 100% within your right to have fun and have a good time doing what it is you're doing.
Yep.
Your freedom to have a good time butts up to the point where you start having that fun at somebody else's expense. And at that point, you have crossed over. You are over the line. You are out of bounds.
Yep.
And that's not okay.
Right.
And that kind of thing can happen in a lot of different ways, but it feels like for the most part, alcohol's typically involved.
Yeah, and I mean, to the extent that alcohol only makes loud the attitudes that are already there, puts them on loudspeaker. I do want to say, listen, we're sort of talking about the downside of it. The upside of it is gorgeous.
Yeah, we're talking the realm of negativity.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I could literally, if I went through the rest of my night, so in the course of 3 hours, that one guy was memorable enough because he was such a dingus.
Right.
But there were easily half a dozen other people that I could tell you about that were amazing.
Yeah.
And were fun and did fun songs and may not have known how the song was supposed to go, but just was game for it. There were way more of those people.
100%.
But at least in my case, I feel like it's a product of our environment. A lot of the guys that do the kind of work we do, and almost everybody in the Patreon Slack, we're doing country club gigs and these kind of higher end schmancy pants gigs.
Right.
And those tend to be the ones full of people who feel like they can treat people however they want to.
Right.
And it's very similar to that video that I made a couple months back where we were kind of talking about the prospect of firing clients. The way that a client talks about how you as the band should be treated is kind of like a red flag of what your night is probably going to be like. So I think not everybody deals with this as much as others do. It's got a lot to do with where you are.
Yeah. For all of our complaining about the sometimes hard crowd interaction of it, there's plenty of just delicious, wonderful moments of interacting with people. That's part of doing live karaoke. So I don't want to scare anybody off of it, is the point.
And I think the main point, though, is how in the moment do you choose to deal with difficult people?
Yeah.
Because this is not, a musician specific thing.
Right.
Difficult people exist in all walks of life.
Very true.
And when you're in a scenario where at the most you might be in direct contact with this person for 5 minutes, do you let them embarrass themselves and kind of hang them out to dry and move on with your life, or do you step in? And I think for the most part, you just kind of let it go.
Yeah.
But there are times when, people cross the line and you have to again, you're talking about murdering the energy of a night, but sometimes for the sake of everybody else's enjoyment, because again, when people are having fun at the expense of others, they're already negatively impacting the room.
That's kind of my line. If they're embarrassing themselves, like, fine, enjoy. If it's aimed at someone else,
yeah,
that's unacceptable.
Yep.
I'm not going to tolerate that.
It's definitely super uncomfortable, and it really puts a damper on things, but sometimes you got to stand up for your people.
Yeah.
And you got to stand up for your regulars in your crowd, and you just got to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah.